God is seeking to blow our mind. In the Old Testament, there's a character by the name of Lot. Lot and his wife, his family, were in a land that had become consumed with selfishness, with greediness, with hate and vengeance. And Lot had a direct connection to the Mastermind, the God of his being. And God told Lot and his wife and his family, get out of this place and do not look back. And so he gathered his wife and his family, and they began to leave that place, being told, get out of this place, do not look back. But his wife, Lot's wife, looked back. Do any of you remember what happened to her? She turned into a pillar of salt. Now what that means metaphysically is she became a statue that was no longer animated. That when we turn back, we become immobilized in fear. We're stuck. We're a statue. It's as if life is constantly expanding and moving forward, and you cannot turn back and still be connected to all of the life that is wanting to stream through you. God wants to blow your mind. God is blowing your mind. How do we begin to cooperate with this individually and collectively? Another thing for us to consider about the Mastermind is to really become available and receptive to inspiration. How many of you can recall a time that an idea or something just came to you out of the blue, so to speak? Maybe you're trying to recall something and it just came, or an idea. How many of you are musicians or artists and this image comes to you, or a song that just comes to you? I had a week, I don't know what's going on with the planets, but I wrote 3 songs this week. There's stuff that's just coming through. Where does it come from? It comes from the Mastermind. So if we're willing to realize when we get stuck and we're looking back, to bring awareness to that, oh, there's a part of me that's stuck. I don't want to be that statue. I want to be in the flow of life. Help me, Mastermind. Help me, Mind of God, to move forward. I want to be open and receptive and available to this ongoing inspiration. True story. There was a 4th generation barber, had a barber shop out in the Midwest. And it had been there for many, many years, and it was a place where people hung out and you could get refreshments, just this old-fashioned barber shop. But what happened after 4 generations of success, back in the early 70s, one of those new $5 haircuts moved into town. And so this 4th generation barber shop all of a sudden were losing business left and right. The finances had gone down. It was worse than it had ever been. The owner's son was in college, and the owner's son came home at Christmas, on Christmas break, and the dad had a conversation with his son, and he said, son, I hate to tell you, but I really think after the first of the year, I'm going to be forced to close the barber shop. And his son said, why? And so he began to explain why. Well, the Supercuts has come into town, and I can't compete with $5 haircuts, and, I just don't know what to do. And the son said, you know what? I've been studying something in school. I've been studying about a man named Napoleon Hill and his philosophy of achievement, and about Thomas Edison, who was one of the greatest inventive geniuses of all time. And he said, we've been studying about something called the Mastermind principle, which Napoleon Hill coined this. And he said, we were taught, put your head together with the Mastermind and nudge your neurons into becoming a powerhouse. Because what Napoleon Hill discovered, this is the Mastermind principle. It says, we live in an awesome, wondrous, orderly universe, the laws of which are carried out with exquisite precision. The Mastermind is the power source that created and directs this incredible universe. And by the way, your incredible life. Each person is a personalized expression of the Mastermind and therefore has the innate ability to tap into its power, genius, and wisdom. He said, Dad, I learned that Thomas Edison and Napoleon Hill, who actually was, he supported 2 different presidents, President Woodrow Wilson and Franklin Roosevelt. He was an advisor to them. And he said, I learned that what he taught these presidents to do and what he did was he went to what he called the land of solutions. I talked about this actually a couple of weeks ago. And he said he just would get quiet and still and acknowledge a higher power, a mastermind, a God, a G-O-D, grand overall designer, whatever you call it. And he simply made himself available to that and would ask a question and then let it go and let it come back. So he said, Dad, let's you and I ask the mastermind, what can we do to save our business? And Dad said, I have nothing to lose. Let's do it. And so they did that, and then they went fishing. And they enjoyed some time out and went fishing, and then that night they both spent some time apart, and they came back the next morning, and they had some great ideas. And so they began to write down all the ideas that had come to them, just ideas that came. And one thing began to show up and jump out, and they both laughed and said, it's kind of silly, but maybe it would work. And so they decided they would try it. Son went back to school. The father implemented the idea. Within 6 months, not only had he turned the business around, but his profits were higher than they had ever been in his entire lifetime. You know what he did? You know what the idea was? This is a true story. He put a sign up that said, "We fix $5 haircuts." It's a great idea. We fix $5 haircuts. It's true. It just happens to be. Not only did his go up, but that is one of the only supercuts in that day and time that ever closed and went out of business. And it wasn't his intention. His intention was, give me an idea. He never tried to compete. He went to the mastermind. How many of you could use some fresh inspiration in your life? I could every week, every Sunday. I go to the mastermind a lot. Ernest Holmes says, who is one of Charles Fillmore's contemporaries, he's the founder, considered the founder of religious science, which is now Science of Mind. He said, all beings are expression of and part of infinite intelligence, also known as spirit, Christ consciousness, mastermind, or God. Because God is all there is in the universe, its power can be used by humans to the extent they recognize and align themselves with its presence. You see, I think of God a lot of times as electricity. It can be used for purposes to illuminate this building or for purposes to destroy this building. Do you hear what I'm saying? That which we call evil is simply an attribute of free will. That which we call evil is not the work of a devil. It is the work of our consciousness being so broken and hurt and disconnected from the truth of who we are that we destroy life and allow life to be destroyed. It is the one power and the one presence flowing. And folks, we are the channel. That's the good news, the scary news, the great news. And to me, it's the liberating news. It is the news that will set our life free and set our world free. I truly believe that. To the extent we recognize and align with its presence. Another aspect of this mastermind, how do we align with its presence, is first of all to recognize it in all things. Everywhere you go, to recognize it. I did a sermon a while back about all, AWE, always witnessing everything. A few months ago, we did a series of Prosperity Plus, and the whole goal of this is to begin to recognize the good in your life, to take the first fruits of your life and give them back to the source of your being, your time, your talent, your treasure. And when you do this, you also commit to tithing, to giving of your time, to volunteering, to noticing the good, and then to let go of how it comes back into your life. Come over to the microphone. Heidi Maloney, who is just one of the most wonderful individuals I've ever had the opportunity to know and work with. She is our financial administrator. Last week, she pretty much ran the whole show here. Would you give her a hand? So Heidi's in the midst of the Mastermind program, opening herself to good. And yet this unexpected thing happened.